first draft, and we have some adjustments to it already made. So typically in BOCES budget and also the regular budget, at this time of year, we're dealing with lots of unknowns because we're putting things together, we're trying to figure out what everybody wants and what we need to add, and what we need to take out. So for the BOCES budget, we're still looking at final special education cost, which would include picking the number of slots that you're going to need for next year. I've got preliminary numbers from Mrs. Farrell already, and she can tell you that I'll ask her probably every week for the next 8 weeks if there's been any changes, kids moving out, kids moving in, etc. Also, with the menu options, as she meets with her staff and the BOCES folks, we narrow down things like the OT, PT, speech, and those kinds of services. We don't know the final alternative education costs at this point. You know, Mrs. Troutman and Mr. Paschke have been working on what their numbers are going to be. There are a couple students sliding up into the high school, a couple needs to middle school, so we're working through that. We didn't have, at the time I put this together last week, we did not have the final occupational education cost, but they did come in an email late this afternoon, so I can adjust that for the next discussion. And also, I don't have yet the final central business office cost. The bulk of the remaining BOCES services kind of fall into place based on year-to-year use and the preset pricing from BOCES. So one of the things that I presented to the audit committee last meeting was to give them, just to give an idea where I was going with this, budget versus actual data. And we went back to 2015-16 alternating columns, budget actual, and out through the 2019-20 budget request. I will tell you that for the 2018-19 actual at this point, we can't read a lot of anything into it because I'm simply picking up in this draft the numbers that were budgeted, primarily because I hadn't had the first major BOCES billing to compare some of the data to, which we now have, so that I can update that as we go. Items on this page pretty much are all standard operating kinds of things. You have the administrative services for BOCES, capital expenditures for rent and projects, and those things typically what they charge you is a required fee, and that's what you end up paying, so there's not a lot of fluctuation on that page. This next page is where you really get into the ones that cost a lot of money and move a lot, and that would be the, going down the left-hand side, the 2110, 2250, and the 2280 codes, which are your teaching regular school, which includes the alt-ed programs, your special education, which is the high-cost students, and the occupational education programs that we do offer our students. And taking a look across, you can see there is some fluctuation. Picking on the programs for handicap, for example, 15-16, we're about $200,000 less in actual expense. And when that happens, a couple things probably have occurred. One, I typically budget a couple extra slots in there, or two, somebody's moved out at the beginning of the year, partway through the year, and that's where those changes occur. To a lesser extent, the menu choices for PTOTs and speech would affect that as well. So 16-17, budget to actual, same thing, we're down, but 17-18, we're up. 18-19, I'm projecting on this graph the same cost as we budgeted, but I can tell you we're tracking to be spending more than we budgeted because of some students that have moved in during the course of the year. And the far right column, you can see we're up from a little over $1 million to a projection of almost $1.7 million, which is about 7 students additional compared to the roster they have in 18-19. Now, those are the kinds of things we'll be talking about and hopefully making some adjustments to as we go. But on the front end, when I budget, that's how I have to start because that's what we may need.
And Mr. Ford, relative to that, so the 2018-19 actual, just looking at A2110 490 and 2250 490, would you normally then, are you saying, and are we anticipating, that next time you present, we may actually have increased numbers under 2018-19 actual to
Yes.
Okay, account for what you've got experiencing right now and anticipating 7 going forward.
Yeah, what happens when they give you the BOCES, the big BOCES billing, the first one, it's a pretty thick document, and in there they have the actual student attendance data for the special ed, which includes the menu choices, so I can go through and match it up to what I budgeted. Also alt-ed, I know we added a couple slots this year, so I'll see who the roster is versus what I budgeted, and that's how I can pick that up.
Excellent, thanks.
And then going to the final page, just to break it out, I separated the budget versus actual, so you can see 15-16, we're a little bit less than budget. 16-17, same thing. 17-18, we were about 150,000 over. So we have a little bit of a fluctuation there, and as the audit committee knows, there are areas that I do budget the fund balance amount, if you will, in there, because I need to carry the slots in case we do have unanticipated student arrivals.
So when you go through here, you know, your 2018-19 budget and your 2018-19 actual is identical, okay? And I get that, you're not through a full year yet. Do you ever get somewhere through the year and then kind of project where you'll be at the end?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do with that new bill that we got.
So it'll be next month?
Yep.
Okay.
And I said that part of doing it this way was to kind of give the board and audit committee also an idea of what maybe they could look at that'd be different than what we've done before. I know we've had some email discussion back and forth with just actual data and then budget, and some that would like both. So we can do it both ways. It's a little harder to follow when it's both, but we can break it out in columns and stuff like that. So
Thank you.
So if this is something that seems like the board would be more interested in, then you just need to let me know that, and then I can produce what I'm going to show you in subsequent meetings with that in mind. Taking a look then, just for purposes of illustration, these are the major increases over $5,000 in budget areas. So option 2, which is high cost special ed, you're up 2 slots. Option 3, I'm up 1. Option 5, I'm up 3. Now, a couple of those are the extras that I typically carry at the front end, but they also reflect the increased enrollment from this year and the projections. Same thing, you have the slots up there. Typically, you're going to add, not in all cases, but in some cases, you'll add 8 slots, or you'll add the individual or group sessions for speech counseling, occupational therapy, and so forth. So those were all up across the board. Second page, top, same thing. Occupation education, we're up 1 slot. Typically, that won't move a lot, but I haven't compared that yet, as I mentioned a minute ago. P-Tech, we're looking at the possibility of adding 2 more slots. Middle school is working through the due diligence piece with the students that have expressed interest, so that would be an increase for us there. Parents as Teachers is a new program that's been requested by the elementary school, which hasn't been discussed fully yet, so I still have to have it in there. As I mentioned, the alt-ed slots were up with the students moving from middle school into high school, combined with the ones that were already there, plus the projections for slots in the middle school, and then just some increased costs. Visually impaired, we needed another half a slot for a student there. Science kits, we're adding additional grade levels. And then the capital project will be, 1920 will be the 3rd year of our 3-year commitment to them. Each year been a different amount, and this year's a decrease of $118,000 in the expense for that.
And Mr. Forbes, so the 2020, 2021, that capital project's gone, that expense is gone.
No, well, 1920 will be their last year for that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And so then, just to summarize here, compared to the 2018 final, you can see we're up 762,000 or 23%. Percentage-wise, not really off where it might be to start. They typically do start on the high end, but this time we've got things that are driving it more than just me putting a little bit extra in to start with. So we'll whittle that down as we go and come back with some additional information next time.
So those slots that you're saying are, I didn't see anybody going down, or any of those lines going down. Those are actual projected needs.
Based upon incoming students at the lower grade levels, and the information Mrs. Fair gave me, we had to put that in there. I think we had one at the higher level moving to this year.
My question to that actually is, are these new students coming in with IEPs that have these increases, or are these students that are already, I mean, how are these students, are these just new students that are coming in?
So I'm looking at kids coming from preschool services to kindergarten. There's a number of students that have very high needs there. And we recently had a student move in. So, you know, numbers that aren't accounted for right now. But yes, there's some new students, and those are based on students that I know are in the district right now, and that would be my projection as to what type of service they would need next year.
So you don't see these students as, because sometimes when we get a student, they have such a large amount of services, and then we realize after spending about a month with the student, like, this student doesn't need all these services, you know, do you anticipate any of that happening down the road where some of these slots might not be?
You know, I do, and as John was talking, I actually jotted down a couple of students that I have on my radar as possible bringbacks
Yeah.
to their students, so, because I want to make sure, I need to go investigate those needs a little bit further, I need to see them in person and kind of, you know, make some
Right.
more educated guesses about that.
And at the preschool level, you guys have, obviously, CPSC is done, is it done in-house with you guys, or for like
I do it.
speech? Not talking about for speech.
Oh,
and-
that's,
Yeah, for the,
no,
No.
those are all services that come through the county.
so in those services, they usually are going to be higher in the sense of the student will have typically more individual sessions, because, you know, there's not really a group to put them in when you go into their house or something
Right.
like that. So when they come into the district, then you guys, as kindergartners, you guys are looking at, okay, now we're in a different environment where we might be able to group these kids to.
Of course.
To other, yeah, and so that might put some of those slots down too, or no?
Those would not be BOCES slots, more likely, the kids that I have projected for BOCES slots coming in from preschool services are kids that are already in a center-based preschool program.
Okay, I got
Yeah.
you. Yeah, okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so the itinerant services typically, unless it's a really rare case, wouldn't be a child that I would project into a program like that.
Perfect, thank you.
And the slots that I put in were based upon that kind of initial conversation, knowing that she hasn't met with the students and her staff yet.
Sure. Thank you.
Wait, any other questions for Mr. Forbes? Mr. Forbes, thanks so much, appreciate that. All right. Okay. That takes us to Roman numeral 9 then. And the board's reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Audience members seeking a response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return to our district clerk, Ms. Slidell. So anyone wish to address the board on any issue whatsoever? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close that then. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held February 26th at 6 p.m. Right here in the library. And Mr. Sortisio, any other announcements you have?
Yeah, I do have a few, so thank you, Mr. Bobstein. First off, I'd like to congratulate our retirees and thank them for years of service and dedication to the students and the Fredonia community. I do want the board to know that tomorrow I have a meeting with Mary LaRoe, who's the CEO of Brooks Memorial Hospital, and representatives from the Department of Transportation. We will be discussing the proposed site for the hospital, especially as it impacts traffic flow and how it may impact our campus. This Thursday, Assemblyman Andy Goodell will be visiting our campus as part of library advocacy, maybe a library advocacy week. It's truly a pleasure to host the Assemblyman and advocate for library funding. And this past Saturday, Ms. Gagenschatz and I attended the CCSBA legislative breakfast and heard from both Senator Young and Assemblyman Goodell.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for that. Ms. Gagenschatz, anything? No? Ms. Paul Fortman? Mr. Aldrich?
Actually, I did see that the district put an ad in the Observer for a driver ed teacher. And if I could, I'd just like, I will not give a reference to my driver ed teacher because he never stopped me from speeding. So, no.
He just never gives up.
Nothing else, no.
Statute of limitations is run, so I think everyone's safe relative to that. Mr. Forster, anything?
Actually, yes. I had the great pleasure of driving up to the Carrier Center on February 6th and attending a BOCES Board of Education meeting. And it was kind of like, for me, it's kind of like coming back home again, because I was employed by BOCES for a few years, so I got to see some old friends, and it was kind of nice. And I'm going to tell you that we are kind of a bit of a celebrity when we walk in there, because we were that one district that comes to the meeting, so it's kind of
kind of fun to go in there, and they appreciate it, they really do. Just want to go briefly, if I can, over what they talked about. Labor Relations Service Team did a presentation on what they do, on the services they provide, and I have this with me, and I don't know if you guys want to pass it around or whatever, I'll give it to you, Mr. Bobstein. So, so somebody who's not familiar with their services, it's a good read. It tells about what they can do for the school districts through COSERs and stuff like that. So they did that. The biggest thing that they talked about was, APPR. My understanding is that it's on the desk of the governor at this time. There are some changes in it. They didn't really go over too much of the changes, but just expect some changes in the APPR. It has passed both houses, my understanding. Am I good with that? Okay. All right. They're going to do some restructuring of the RSC task. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's, oh Lord, I don't know either. So, you know what it is.
Regional Special Education Technical Assistance Service.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
So anyways,
Sorry.
not that that's going to help you guys to know any of that anyways. There was an interesting thing that Dr. O'Rourke talked about in regard to more flexibility for substitute teacher requirements, possibly down the road.
Please.
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know, would it make it more difficult to have quality people? As far as that would work well with students, or, or that type of it. We're gonna go the other way, where,
But there are quality people that we need to maintain.
so. And just review the school closings, because there was a lot of school closings, obviously. There is a NISBA Capital Conference this weekend. And they did approve the 2019-2020 Western New York instructional calendar. So that will be coming down the pike.
We already have ours. Not yet. We're working on it, right? It's a little tricky this year.
I knew that was going to come. Along with driver's ed, every year. We have the calendar. So that was all really what we talked about.
Mr. Hawk, anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, whoever was charged with putting the middle school kids' picture in the paper was fantastic. I think it serves a big piece for our kids. I can see by all the smiles in the picture, and I'm sure they talked about it. Having their picture in the paper. So, thank you.
Very cool. Mr. Jambrone.
I don't think I dare speak.
Save it for the calendar and driver's ed. Ms. Piper, anything?
I want to thank our PTA. We had a movie night for our families last Friday night in the auditorium, which was quite exciting for a lot of our students, some who had never been to a movie theater. So they had free admission, they served popcorn at intermission. It was really a really nice night, so thanks to the PTA for doing that. It is Valentine's Day week in the elementary school, so if maybe you need to feel the love, come on down to the elementary school. There's lots of candy and lots of hearts and sugar and we feel lots of love, so come on down, it's a great place.
Thanks, Ms. Piper. Ms. Troutman?
I have a few things. Our Service Learning Club has been raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Last I heard it was $169, but I'm sure it's probably closer to $200. They also visited yesterday the WCA home. There were a group of students who went and worked with the activity director. They played games with the people there, just had conversations, read books. It was just really wonderful. February 2nd, the music department hosted the annual CCMTA Solo Festival here at Fredonia. Many things. There were 36 Fredonia music students who assisted, I'm sorry, I'm reading this, 414 solos were performed. At the festival, 111 of those solos were our own students. And then on February 9th, 28 of our Fredonia student musicians will perform in an honor ensembles at the CCMTA Winter Festival at Chautauqua Lake. And congratulations to these students on that achievement. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we will be having our parent orientation project no for our grade 5 students. And then actually tonight, Darren was down in the auditorium. We had our 8th grade kind of moving up night where they talk about course selections and that kind of thing to get our 8th grade students ready for high school next year.
Very well attended, very well attended.
Mr. Paschke, do you have anything you want to add, or?
No, I wanted to hit the CCMTA festivals, both of those, and the parent night tonight, attended by parents and students. Fantastic night. I just have to give kudos to the counselors, the middle school counselor and the 2 high school counselors who did a fantastic job presenting all the information to the parents on all the new graduation requirements for high school, putting them at ease, answering questions. It was just a fantastic night. The parents were very appreciative. Several stayed afterwards and asked individual questions. Just a great job and very well prepared, so just kudos to them.
Has this always been a collaborative effort amongst the counselors, or is this a new element?
It's not new this year, it's been new in the past couple of years, yes.
It's going to be even better next year.
Yes. It's getting better every year. It really is. It's fantastic.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
That's great. Mr. Forbes? No, Mr. Rada?
Just wanted to let everybody know that on February 26th, our grade 6 ELA students will be participating in a computer-based testing simulation, where they will be using their Chromebooks for a period to check out the new test to see what it's like. Essentially, we're doing it so that we could figure out our own processes. Do the Chromebooks work? Does the wireless network work? Because later on this year, when we do testing, our 6th grade ELA students will be testing using their devices. So we're looking forward to that. I say that because I had to drive up to the Carrier Center this afternoon, and it was a harrowing trip. I do want to mention that Mr. Forrester was also highlighted as an interview subject too, so if you get a chance to read his interview, very interesting, very interesting.
That's great, thank you. Ms. Sparrow? No, Ms. Sligo? Excellent. I just want to thank the videographer. Thanks for being here. It's wonderful. Really appreciate you all doing this. Okay, then, there being no further business, I do need a motion to adjourn. Ms. Gagenschatz, and is there a second to that? Ms. Powell Fortner, excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Excellent, we're adjourned then. Hey, thanks everyone, really appreciate it, and you all take good care, have a safe trip home.
Safety.